Basically, there are 4 outcomes in this unit. The first one is describe the OSI and the TCP/IP models and the encapsulation and decapsulation process. And the second is to create a client-server switched local area network with secure endpoints. So in this session, I hope to cover the first 2 outcomes, which should then allow you to be able to complete a generous amount of the assessment. So what I have here is I have a diagram whereby we have 2 network layers side by side. So this model here is called the OSI model, okay, and we have 7 layers here. And this model on the other side is the TCP/IP model, okay, and we have 4 layers there. Now, these are the 2 models that you need to know in networking. Now, why do we have these models? The reason we have these models is so that we can divide up networks into logical segments or logical building blocks. And the benefit of using a layered model is that we can take out a layer and do some fix to it, change it, and then put it back in. So layered models are often used in computing and they're quite good. And the going back to the previous slide, it says the OSI and the TCP/IP model and the encapsulation and decapsulation process. Now this bit's quite simple, really. Encapsulation is just how data gets treated as it travels down the reference model. So what happens is data comes in at the application layer and then it is encapsulated and passed down the way through 7 different layers until it reaches the physical layer, where it travels across the network, and then the exact same thing happens in reverse at the other end. It's decapsulated on the way up, okay? And at each of these different layers, we give data different names, okay? And that's called a protocol data unit. So down at layer 1, we call data bits. At layer 3, the network layer, we call data packets. So you might have heard of people speak about IP packets. This all happens at layer 3. So different protocol data units, different names for things, and different protocols live at different layers of the OSI model or of the TCP/IP model. And when we talk about troubleshooting a problem, we often talk about troubleshooting it at different layers. Now, there is a really easy way, well, I think it's an easy way to remember these, and if you just remember the phrase, all people seem to need data packets. All people seem to need data packets. You will remember application, presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and physical. And this one, sadly, I don't have a clever abbreviation for that. It's just ATIN. You can come up with your own one. All something, never something. I don't know.
Oh,
Who
you
knows?
were going to say something dodgy there.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was not going to say anything. So this is actually, I think that's a wee mistake there. I just got this. This is actually, yes, I can see. Thanks again. Yeah, this is actually called the network access layer. Now, why do we have these 2 layers? I don't know. It's like, why do we have iPhones and Android? Why do we have MP3s and WAV files? It's just 2 different systems that 2 different groups of people have come up with, okay? So the OSI was created by the ISO, the International Standardization Organization. TCP/IP, I think, was created by the IEEE, although don't quote me on that, but let's just say they're 2 slightly different standards. Now, if I said to you, don't worry about these top 3, just consider those to be the application layers. And then if I told you that transport layer is the same in both models, and then if I told you that the network layer is the same in both models, and then I told you that the network access layer is just a combination of these bottom 2, that might break it down and make it a little bit more straightforward. So I'll try to refer back to these. Often when we say we have a problem in a network, the way that we troubleshoot this problem is, I see, hang on, I'm going to type it into the chat. So it's all people seem to need data packets. All right, people seem to need data packets. And if you remember, that's application, presentation, session, transport, network, data link, physical. Okay. So we have these layers. And for example, if I was to say to you, okay, your computer isn't working. Is your computer plugged in? All right. Is it plugged in? That's a physical layer issue. So if you say to me, yes, it is plugged in, I'd say, okay, is the network cable plugged in? Have you physically plugged the network cable in? And you'd say, I have, yeah. And I would say, are there two little lights blinking either side? And you would say, no. And I would say, right, that's a layer one problem. We have a physical layer. We have an actual problem with the devices. And most problems, in their simplicity, get resolved at the physical layer. So it's usually just someone being silly. A good example, I have a friend who works at IKEA, and they had a huge problem with their computer systems one weekend. And basically, they couldn't operate the tills in the Edinburgh shop at all. And seemingly they lost over £100,000. And they had to get someone from, I guess the problem occurred on Friday night. And then by Saturday, when the shop filled up full of people buying flat pack wardrobes and I don't know, plants and other nonsense, they realized that they couldn't sell anything. And it turned out it all came back to just one cable that was out in the back in the server rack. And he said, but how could that happen? And I said, well, maybe somebody was being silly and they pulled it out, or maybe it just came loose over time and a cleaner went past with a, I don't know, with a hoover or something, or the cleaner, somebody brushed past it, or someone was carrying a box. But anyway, a physical layer problem like that can be huge. So that's physical layer issues. So if you know the physical layer's fine, the next layer, the data link layer, is where MAC addresses live. And usually you can troubleshoot that by seeing that the two little link lights are flashing either side of an Ethernet card. Okay, link lights and things indicate data link, the clue's in the name. The network layer is where IP addresses live. So if you can ping from one IP address to the other, you can prove that the network layer is working. And then the transport layer is where we have port numbers. So if you had a server running and you could ping the server, but you couldn't access the services of the server, the things that live above the network layer, that's when you would have a layer 4 problem. And as I say, as the further up we go, the less likely these are. And then application, presentation, and session are generally dealt with by software teams. Okay, software engineers. It wouldn't be something you would have to worry about in networking and security so much. Not for this unit anyway. So encapsulation means going down the OSI model. Decapsulation means coming back up at the other side. Okay. Now, what are we going to look at today? So I believe if we go back to outcome 2 is create a client server network, switched local area network with secure endpoints. So to do this, we're going to use Windows Active Directory, and I think I've got a little diagram here. I do. So there are two types of networks we need to be concerned with. The first type of network is a client-server network. So a client-server network is where you have something that acts as a client. It could be anything, a phone, a computer, a laptop, I don't know. I'm trying to think of silly things, an alarm clock. And then you have something that acts as a server, and that could be any device as well. It's just something that's providing the services. So when there's an established client-server role, we call that a client-server network. A peer-to-peer network is when you don't have a dedicated server. So one computer can act as the client, one computer can act as the server, or vice versa. There is no established hierarchy there. So I've put a couple of diagrams there. There's a client-server, and there's a peer-to-peer. And the advantage of a client server network is that we have a dedicated piece of hardware to provide services to our clients. So the classic example of this is if you've ever worked in an office where people are not very good with IT, they might have a printer, and their solution for printing might be that they have a USB cable, and they pick up the USB cable and they walk over to the corner with the printer and they plug their laptop in and they print. So what they're doing there is they're not making any use of the network. Now let's say you had a old computer lying around, or you bought a cheap computer. I'm pretty sure we could pick one up on Facebook Marketplace or on Gumtree just now for £20. Buy that and set that up as a print server, and then share it with everyone in the office. And then in the office, rather than the people printing to the printer, they would send the print to the print server. The print server's connected to the printer, and the printer prints out. So there we've set up a client server network to stop us. That's a very simple kind of small advantage of it. So at home, I've got this wireless printer. It's a scanner and it's USB. And I've got another black and white laser printer up here, and that's a USB as well. Those are both connected into a Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi shares those USB printers over my Wi-Fi network. So I can print from my phone, because my little computer there is acting as a server for me, and it's providing print services through these two USB devices that wouldn't otherwise work wirelessly. So there's a simple example of client peer-to-peer. So I think, right. So what is the Active Directory is the next topic. The Active Directory is Microsoft Windows way of setting up a client server network and allowing you to facilitate logging in to that network. So that's, I don't want to bore you to death with PowerPoint, so that's what I'm actually going to show you today, and that's what we need to do for the assessment for this unit. We need to set up and secure a client server network. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use Virtualbox. So we're going to use a hypervisor. That's what Virtualbox is. You don't have to use Virtualbox. You could use VMware. You could use, I think on the Mac, you could use Parallels to do this. You could also use those things on Linux called KVM. But free piece of software that works and that I'm going to show you today is Virtualbox. And Virtualbox is some software that runs on some hardware that allows you to run other bits of software inside, and we call that a hypervisor. Okay, hypervisor is just a piece of software that allows you to run other operating systems on some single bit of hardware. And what we're going to do is we're going to simulate a client server network where we're going to have a Windows server here and we're going to have a Windows client here. And this client is going to be able to log into the network using the Active Directory service running on the server. Okay, and if we go back to our network model here, the Active Directory we can consider working up here at this level, application level, okay, higher layers. And we will need to have IP addresses set up in the network, and we'll need to have layer 2 and layer 1 communication, although we'll be doing it virtually. You can think of those as virtual cables. So we'll need a virtual LAN running, a switched LAN. We'll need IP addresses, we'll need some services running, and we'll need the Active Directory running as well. What we're going to do now is we're going to download Windows Server 2019. So in order to do that, we go to Google and we type Windows Server 2019. And then the first link comes up, probably sponsored, says Windows Server 2019. We click on that. And then this will take us to another page, and this will change, but the general gist of things are we want to try Windows Server now. Now, in the past, Windows Server had a payment license, but now it's considered, or it is trialware. So you can try it for 180 days for free. So you just click download free trial, and there you go, 180-day free trial. Select your evaluation file type, ISO, click continue. give them your name. You don't have to give them your real name if you don't want to. I don't think it'll do any harm. Maybe they'll spam you with an email every now and again. And tell them some stuff and then click continue. Now I'm not going to sit here and wait because the ISO will be a couple of gig. It's quite a big file, so I'm not going to sit. I've already got a copy of it downloaded. I just wanted to explain to you how you would download it. And likewise, if we wanted to download Windows 10, just go Windows 10, and we can get an evaluation version of Windows 10 as well. I can put links to this. They're going to try and sell us a Windows 10 computer, but I can put links to this in the description. I just wanted to demonstrate to you how straightforward it is to get there. So I want to click new. Sorry, I'm being silly here. Right, so name. We'll call this, let's do networking VM 2019. And then we're going to change. So what I'm going to do then is, the previous step I showed you involved downloading the ISO. So let's say you've got your ISO downloaded to a folder somewhere. I'm now going to navigate to my software folder and see if I can find my virtual VMware. Bound to have it here somewhere. Server 2019, server 2019. I'm bound to have the ISO here somewhere. ISOs. So hopefully you can see a new operating system there, and all we're going to do is we're going to say Windows 10, okay, and we're going to call it Windows 10 client, okay, and this is going to be our client machine in the client server network, okay. Type, leave it on Windows. Operating system, change it to Windows 10, okay, and I think we're going to go, it should be 64-bit. Don't worry about that too much. Now, I heard that we had some discussions about allocating RAM. This is possible to do if you have a machine with 4 gig of RAM, okay? But it won't be fast, it won't be nice. Now, what you need to do to get it to run at a decent level of speed is set it to 2 gig of RAM for the installation only. Once the installation's finished, you can turn it all the way down to half a gig. Okay, you can turn it off, but it needs 2 gig for the installation. Now, so that this video doesn't go really slowly and we all end up staring at a screen, I'm going to give this 4 gig of RAM. I've got quite a big computer here, so let's just go next on that. Right, create a virtual hard disk. So a disk for the machine, we'll just leave it on the default. Okay, dynamically allocated is what you want. Now, when it says dynamically allocated, what it means is you can have a hard disk that pretends, in quotes, that it's 100 gig, but it's only going to take up as much space as it needs. So it might only be 3 gig in space. So when if we were to choose fixed size, it would genuinely take this amount of disk away from the computer, but we're just going to go dynamically allocated. It recommends 50 gig. I would just leave it there. In reality, the file's not going to be 50 gig. It's going to take maybe 3 or 4 from your computer, okay? And so let's just, right, so now we've got a Windows 10 client machine over here. The next thing we need to do is put a virtual CD into the virtual CD drive of this machine. So let me just click on this little settings gear and click details and go to settings. And then we're going to go to system storage. Now, at the moment, we can see that the disk drive of the virtual machine is empty. So we're going to go here and click on this little CD. And then we're going to choose a disk file. And we're going to navigate to our somewhere. I've got software that we can use. I've got too many folders. Folder there called crap. It's not in there. ISOs, Windows 10 Consumer Edition. Grab that, then I'm going to click OK. So all I've done is I've told this hypervisor to build me a computer, okay, and it's going to have this specification here. So for now, what I'm going to do is just start the machine up, okay, and it should. Okay, please select the virtual. I'm pretty sure I just selected. Okay, we'll let it off. Normally it just works. So this machine will start booting, and hopefully we should see the Windows 10 installation beginning.
Probably worth saying, Michael, at this point, when I was trying to get this up and running on my home computer, I remember we had issues, but I think it was because I had to go into the BIOS and change and enable my computer to basically be able to do this. So with some computers, I've got a Lenovo IdeaPad, so I had to do that, just in case any of you have that.
There's two settings in your BIOS. There's like VTX and ATX, and sometimes you have to go in. Now, importantly, when you get to this stage, right, just do I don't have a product key, okay? And then it'll ask you which version of Windows you want. Now, you might not have the full ISO, but I always just go Windows 10 Pro. All right, don't worry about what Windows 10 Education N edition is. All right, Windows 10 Education N is something to do with Scandinavian countries not allowing Windows Media Player to be on there. Don't worry about that. Windows 10 Pro will be just fine for what we're trying to do. And it's simple as well, right? Accept the terms, and then we want to do install Windows files, install Windows only. The files in it, I think we should go install Windows only. And then it's going to ask us which drive we want to install it on. We can see there's that 50 gig virtual drive. Choose that, and there we go. So this screen should be quite common. We hopefully should have seen this screen before. And this screen here is going to tell us that Windows installed. What we need to do now is pretty much nothing. We can just leave it installing in the background. The next part that I'm going to do will involve setting up the server. So maybe this would be a good point to have a break that's just coming up to the hour mark. Would that be a good call?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we all need to stand and look at this going 8%, 9%, 10%. I don't think we need to stare at it. So why don't we have a break till 1:15, and then we can come back.
Can I ask one question before we go, Michael?
Sure.
So I had a couple of people asking me some questions before we came in here today. And if you've got, because you've got a Windows 10 client running there.
Correct.
And in the tutorial videos that we've got at the moment that I send out to the guys, what you're basically doing is filling the gap of that tutorial. Miriam also did that, actually. Miriam did a good thing, guys, that I can share with you, but I'll come back to that. But basically, I think my question is, you've got your Windows 10 client running there as virtually, but you would also have to have a Windows server running as well and getting them to talk. Is that where we're going?
That's next. That's the next step. I'm just copying across the Windows Server ISO just now. So
because the videos that I've given out to the guy, it's like he misses a massive part, guys. I think you'll see that, and those of you who've experienced it, he just brushes over this whole bit that you're doing. So you get the install virtual, and then suddenly he's into virtual machine with a server and a Windows 10 client running together. And it's like the guys were a bit left in the dark.
Getting these virtual machines up and running is a bit of a hurdle to get over. Once you've got that and you figure that out and you understand it, your next big hurdle is getting the networking working with virtual machines. Once you've cracked those both, and you need to crack them both, you need to know how to do both, because it's not going to go away. Virtualization's here, and it's here to stay. Once you've got those two things down, it'll all become very simple, and you'll be able to set up all sorts of virtualized networks in your house. You can have whole fake offices set up. The world's you're only limited by the amount of RAM that you have. To set up the server, we're just going to go for new machine, and we're going to call this Windows Server 2019. In fact, because I called it Windows 10 Client, I want to call it Windows 2019 Server. We're going to go Windows number name, follow that system. And then the version of Windows, just choose as Windows 2019 down here. There's only 64-bit. There's no such thing as Windows Server 2019 32-bit. Now, I'm going to put this on 2 gig. Will I put it on 4 gig? Yeah, why not? I like to live on the edge. Let's fire that up on 4 gig there. Now, you can do this, okay? I said before that a sweet spot is 4 gig. If you only have 4 gig of RAM, the magic number is 1820, okay? If you only have 4 gig of RAM, you put your client on 512 and you put your server on 1820 and they'll both work. They won't work super fast, but they'll both work. So let's just go. I've got enough RAM to give this 4 gig so the installation doesn't drag out. And again, I'm just going through, just hitting defaults on all of this. And again, all I'm doing is just clicking on settings, going to storage, going to the empty CD drive, clicking the little CD, choose a disk file. And then I'm just going to go somewhere in here. I have a server 2019 ISO. There we go. And now I've put the ISO into the virtual CD drive. I'm just going to click OK. And then just click Start. So whatever operating system you're installing, if it's Linux, Ubuntu, any Windows version, you can build the machine doing this. So we want to choose the English Windows Server 2019 ISO. Just hit Start. And there we go. Now, the setup for this is going to be exactly the same as the setup for the client, the installation. There's not going to be much difference. The only very marginal difference is going to be that they're going to ask you to. So again, this is pretty straightforward. It won't matter if you leave it on United States. It just means that the pound key above the 3 on your keyboard won't work. And then just hit install now. And then this is going to take us through a few basic setup questions, but the real setup doesn't begin until we get the actual machine up and running. Right, just do I don't have a product key. Exactly the same as Windows 10 was before. Now, this is where silly mistakes get made. Data center and data center desktop experience are beyond the scope of this course, okay? This is a very advanced extra nonsense that we don't need. Standard is fine, but if you just choose standard, you're going to end up with just a command line. You're not going to have a desktop. So you want standard with the desktop experience. Okay, click next on that. Accept, they're probably very scary terms. Install Windows only. Again, we're just choosing that disk that VMware set up for us, and we should get back to the install window. Okay, so while this is happening over in Windows installation land, I'm going to head back over to my other machine, which should be our oh dear, I feel like my computer's feeling a bit nervous because I'm running 8 gig worth of virtual machines.
How much RAM have you got?
20 gig.
How much?
20.
Jeez.
It's not. My computer is by no means a brilliant computer, though. Honestly, it's an old desktop with a Core i5 that I bought for about £30 online. I've had the motherboard for years, and I've got three 4 gig sticks, 2 of which are old, 1 of which I pulled out another computer, and an 8 gig that I think I bought for £40. So, you know, I'm not sitting here with some kind of super rig, you know, some kind of like monstrosity of a computer. Now, what we're going to do, I'm assuming that you can see Windows Server running over here and the Windows client installing over here. I'm assuming you can see those both on my screen.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is once the Windows client has finished installing, once it's got past its getting ready bit, we're going to shut it down, and that'll send more resources back to the Windows server. So there's probably not that much happening right now that's that exciting. So what I think I should do is pause the video just now, and we'll wait until these installation things finished. I'm just going to try and get them sitting side by side so we can have them both running on the same screen. We are back, and finally we've got through the horrific just a moment screens. And on the Windows 10 client, the out-of-box experience has asked me a million questions about whether I want to share my data with Microsoft, whether I want to. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really matter what you answer to this. You could just go yes, no, no, yes, whatever, doesn't matter. So do I want device history? No. Just a moment. And then it asked me some security questions. I just put anything in. What was my first pet's name? Edinburgh. You know, stuff like that. Use speech recognition? No. Just anything that's good. Right. Do you want to use your location? No. Find my device? No. Do I want diagnostic data to Microsoft? Put it on basic. Do I want inking, typing? No. Tailored experience? No. Advertising ID? No. Just a moment. Okay. Another tip, when I was further back in the setup, it asked me what I wanted to do. Did I want to use a Microsoft account? And I said continue offline. But like I say, you can choose any arrangement of options, and it's still eventually going to get you to. We're almost done, apparently. We just need a few more things polished up, and Windows will be all yours. Oh my God. So I'm going to show you a brilliant tip after we've been. Oh, here we go. So this is the out-of-box experience. Hi, we're getting everything ready for you. Just a moment. Just setting up. Can't remember what it says. Come on. This might take several minutes. Oh, you don't say. There's an hour later, right? Let's jump over to Serverland while this goes through its nonsense setup. So hopefully everyone can see this. Now, when you start server for the first time, it opens, and then if you leave it for a bit, this screen comes up, and this is the Server Manager dashboard. Okay, you can tell because it says Server Manager dashboard up there. All right, what we're going to do with this now. Server Manager allows you to, you might guess, manage the server. So what we're going to do with this server is we are going to, let's just close that little warning. We're going to set this up as a server in our virtual environment. So the first thing we need to do before we do anything with the server is give it an IP address. So let's go down to the bottom here, and this little network television thing here. We want to right click on that, and we want to do open network and internet settings. Now, generally, I always advise to put your server on static IP address. Okay, that's just my tip. Should we do this just now? No. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you something. Let me think. Am I going to do it that way? No, we're going to be sensible. Let's go to network and internet settings. Now, so it's common to choose change adapter options here. Never choose change adapter options. That's beginner stuff. Always go down and go to network and sharing center. And then when that, if I indeed did click on that, funny if it didn't open, and it was like, you need to choose adapter options. No, click on change adapter settings here. Okay, and this is our single network adapter. Right click on it, go to properties, and we're going to give this a sensible IP address. So what I like to do at this point is untick IPv6. We're only going to use IPv4 in this network. And let's go to properties. And we're going to choose use the following IP address. Now, we want our server to have an easy to remember IP address. So what I like to use is 10, of course it's not going to work, 10.10.10 10.10.1, okay? And the subnet mask, let's just do 255.255.255.0. We don't need a gateway because we can think of this actually, this is the gateway, this machine, okay? And then preferred DNS server, we're going to leave that blank as well. So 10.10.10.1 is going to be our server IP address. Click OK. And then, now, it's quite common to go away and quickly check this, but it doesn't work until you click close on this window. Okay, now we've got an unidentified network here. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the start menu, and you don't need to click anything, just type run. Okay, and then just wait till the server decides it's going to search. Okay, while that's searching for run, jump over to the client. It's going to ask you if you want your computer to be discoverable. Just hit yeah. Doesn't really matter, like I say. And then this, okay, well, let's jump back over to the server. It's still searching for run. Okay. I can show you, I can tell you a shortcut to get run up. It's Windows key and R. Okay, and we're going to do CMD for command prompt. Now, the command we need to type is ipconfig. Okay, ipconfig shows us we've got an IP address of 10.10.10.1. That's exactly where we want to be. So 10.10.10.1 is the IP address that we want for the server. Now, when you make any change to a Windows server, you must always reboot it. Okay, so what we're going to do, close all this rubbish down. And sadly, after waiting so long to start the machine up, we're actually going to shut the machine down. So let's go to shutdown, and let's choose, we'll call this operating, you need to choose a reason. So we'll just say, we'll call it an unplanned security issue. Then you need to give it a reason. That's just for logging, right? Let's jump over to our client now. And our client, again, we're going to right click, open network and internet settings. And we're going to wait till this window opens, and then we're going to go to, we're going to repeat exactly the same process as we had with the server. So, right, while that's rebooting itself, we're going to go into this window. So let me just go back, and we'll go all the way down, and we choose Network and Sharing Center. And then when the Network and Sharing Center opens, which it should, there we go change adapter settings, and we're going to right click on our client and do properties. And would anyone like to hazard a guess as to the IP address that I'm going to give this? Just type it into the chat if you can guess what you think I'm going to give this. 10, 10, 10, 2. Now, it could be anything, right? I could go 192.168.42.57. Okay, I've gone into companies before and I've said, what's the address of the server? And they've been like, it's 10.137.42.75. And I've been like, well, that's annoying, isn't it? Why did you give it such a stupid address? Like, why not just, let's just be normal. Okay, let's just call it 10.10.10.1. And what's computer number 2 called? 10.10.10.2. Oh, and we've wheeled a third one in. What on earth will we call that? 47. This leads me back to a time where I left someone in charge of coming up with a number system, and they started at 27. And I said, why did you start at 27? And they said, oh, because I like the number 27. And I was like, right, that's just very odd behavior. It doesn't really work. Well, the computer won't know. Right, so back here, Windows key and R brings up the run prompt. CMD. Let's do ipconfig. We now have 10.10.10.2. Great. So let's go here and let's do, all right, click on the wee power button and shut down. Now, while that's taking place, we're going to have our 2 machines off. We're going to do our network configuration for virtual machines. So let's go to settings in VirtualBox and go to network. Now, NAT, if you remember I told you, is internet only. Okay, so do we only want the server to have the internet? No, we want it to be able to speak to the other computer. So what we want to do is go down. Now, bridged adapter might work, okay? But if we do bridged adapter, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding the machine into my LAN here with my print server and my phone and stuff. So what I'm going to choose is I'm going to choose an internal network, all right? Now, I've never seen this before. This must be a new feature in VirtualBox. I don't think it really matters which one you choose here. So I'm going to choose, and I'm taking an absolute guess here, I'm going to choose IntNet, okay? We can probably go and confirm what IntNet is another day, but let's just click OK. Now, let's jump over to the Windows 10 client, settings, and if we go to network, let's just change to internal network. And the key thing is that we put them on the same internal network, right? Don't put them on a different one. You think that. Now, I think if we go File and go Network Operations Manager, we'll probably be able to configure the settings for this IntNet network. There are no active network operations. Brilliant. Thank you for your help, Windows. Okay, so let's get the server booted up now that we've put it onto its IntNet network. And we might as well, now, I know what I'm going to do. Go to the client and I'm going to turn down the RAM on the client so that it's not choking my computer. So let's just go System and let's put the client down to 2048. So it's like a cheap netbook from, now you could do that to the server as well, but I'm just going to turn the client RAM down. Let's start the client up. So hopefully in a minute, we should be able to get communication between these two machines is absolute fingers crossed what I'm hoping. Now, here's where something sensible comes in. Let's say I want to take a snapshot of the machine in its current state. I can just click take here. And then later on, if I do something and I break this machine, I can revert to a snapshot. Now, I'm not going to click it now because it might take like 5 minutes to copy, but I will click it at some point. Now, these are commonly used in finance because often what we do with servers is we take a snapshot of them every 5 minutes. And then if there was a big network breach or a cyber attack or something, and we were hit with ransomware, we could always just roll back the server to its previous state. So, right, let's do, how do we get this? Let's try a couple of key combinations. Input, keyboard, send, Control-Alt-Delete to the virtual machine. And this should get us to the login page. So, okay, now another annoying thing is I'm going to tell you the password that I put. $, I'll type it into the chat just now. Let me just go everyone. $, Michael's College with a capital E at the end, $. Unfortunately, it's incredibly strict with the password that it wants. So I found that a variation on that password, you can have John's College. It's got to have a capital letter and it's got to have a symbol. So that should get us in. Michael's Colleg. Right. Okay. So the next piece of technology we're going to use is we're going to use Icmp. So Icmp stands for the Internet Control Message Protocol. And you'll more commonly hear people talking about ping, okay, sending a ping. Can you ping this device or can you ping that device? And a ping is just sending an Icmp echo request or a packet down the wire and seeing if the other machine will shout back. And that's why it's called an echo request. And the message that comes back is an echoed reply. So it's like if you were in a cave, if you shout hello, you're going to hear hello coming back. So let's just grab our Control R, Windows key in R, gets this run up. And then let's click OK. And let's get to our command prompt on here. And I'm going to guess that Windows client is going to take an eternity to load because I've put it down to 2 gig of RAM. Hopefully, though, we should be at the winning stage quite shortly.
Michael, did I miss a bit? Did you put them onto a network or did you do that?
I put them Onto an internal network, yes.
Is that the internet thing that you did? Yeah.
Internet, correct.
Yeah.
So let's just do ipconfig and let's just check. Okay, that's what I wanted to see. Always check, because Windows has got a habit of just reversing whatever you do. It likes to do things the way it wants to do. It doesn't want to do them the way you want to do. Now, at the moment, our IP address is 10.10.10.1. So if we do ping 10.10.10.1, we should hope that we get a reply. So let's just run that. And there we go. We have a reply from 10.10.10.1. Now, old school Windows command to clear the screen, CLS, clear screen. Okay, and if we press up, we get the command back. Now, what we want to happen, right, is we want 10.10.10.2 to reply, because that's the address of our client machine over here. So let's just ping. Come on, let's think. Let's jump over here and do, input, keyboard, insert, control, delete. And again, I've set the password as $$ Michael's College. When you set the password up, make sure you remember it. Right, request timed out, request timed out, request timed out, request timed out. It's blocking. It's blocking. Now, the reason that it's blocking is because at the moment, the Windows firewall blocks pings by default. Now, I'm going to show you a command that will send a ping and keep a ping running for as long as we want it to. So let's press up, and if we do /t after it, this will tell it, don't time out after 4. By default, it tries 4 pings, and then it gives you a report. So let's do /t. And in a moment, we're going to see what's going to come up. It's going to come up, request timed out. Right, move that over here. That'll just keep doing, that'll just keep doing request timed out in the background. Let's just see if we can move that along so we can see both at the same time. Great. Okay, Windows key and R, open up CMD, and let's do ipconfig. Okay, now, bear in mind, the server always blocks pings by default, so we would never be able to ping the server. So let's just do ipconfig and check. Great. We still have what we want over here, but our ping from the server to the client is not working, and that is because the Windows firewall is blocking it. So if I just type Windows, am I even in here? Come on. Windows Defender Firewall is what we want. Let's open up Windows Defender Firewall. Now, Windows Defender Firewall is blocking the pings. So for now, for testing, we're going to turn this off. So turn Windows Defender Firewall on or off. Let's go turn off Windows Defender Firewall, turn off Windows Defender Firewall, and click OK. Okay. Now, hopefully, yes. You see that? Over there, we now have a reply on the server from the client. So that shows that we've got communication from the server to the client. It's replying now that we've turned the firewall off. Right, to stop that ping, we just do Control-C like that, and it should, or Control-Z if Control-C doesn't work. Or we can just pull the power cable out of the back of the machine. Anyway.
Well, I'm going to ask a really silly question, okay? Yep. This is virtual, obviously. So the reason these are able to, as soon as you remove the firewall, the reason that they're able to ping to each other is because they're in
put them on the same network. Exactly.
Okay. If it wasn't virtual and it was literally a computer and a server, how would you need to connect them via?
There would need to be cables running. They would need to be plugged into the network. But
no, is there any way of showing that virtually in VirtualBox?
No, there's no way of showing a virtual cable. All right.
Just internet.
Internet, yeah, they're both on the internal network. Now, at the moment, right, what we have is a very, very basic client-server network, right? We've got a virtual cable running from our server to our client. But what we want to set up, all right, is we want to set this Windows server up as the manager of our network. So now that we know we've got a client in the background, and now that we're happy that he's got an IP address, she's got an IP address, and now that we know that pings are working and they're on the same network, we can kind of move the client off to the side now, and let's look at the server. So when you head into a library or an office or a college, often you'll go up to a computer and you'll do Control-Alt-Delete to sign into that computer. And in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to set up the Active Directory. Okay, we need to set up some form of login over here. And to do that, we need to add a role to this server. We need to tell this server, okay, Mr. Server, what we want you to do is we want you to become the domain controller for the client server network. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this, okay? A very basic setup for a simple client server network. We're going to go to Manage, Add Roles and Features. Now, any role you want to add follows this. Skip the first page, okay? Choose a role-based installation, and just that's our server there, 10.1.1.1. Let's not worry about that. We want to add Active Directory Domain Services, ADDS, okay? And then tick Next. Okay, now hopefully it should allow us. It's going to ask you to confirm a load of stuff and other things are going to happen. Let's just click Install. All right. So the last bit of the configuration, now that we've completed the ADDS wizard, we should be able to see this little yellow sort of orangey exclamation mark up there. And we have promote the server to being a domain controller. We just want to add one more role before we do that. So we go back to Add Roles and Features. Let's go Manage, Add Roles and Features, and we just go to Server Roles and we just tick DNS Server. Just accept all the defaults and then click Install. Once that has finished installing, it should say installation succeeded here. Just click Close. We now have DNS and ADDS roles installed. So let's go back over here. Now, we have a little error message here that wants us to promote the server to being a domain controller. So let's just click on that and choose Add to a New Forest. Now, I'm just going to come up with a domain. You can really, there are a few schools of thought. People used to put their company name .local. You are technically meant to own the domain. Since we're testing all this in a virtual environment, a nice simple one I like to put is sc.com. SC can stand for security control, something control.com. Scotland. So let's click Next. And then okay. At this point, this is the DSRM password. We're just going to use the same password that we used for the domain. Click Next on the password. Leave the NetBIOS name as SC. Finally, all prerequisites should check. I mean, if you have any amber ones, don't worry about them. If you have any red ones, you should go back and fix them. And then just click Install. And what this is going to do is this is going to make this server into an Active Directory domain controller. So Windows will probably give you a few errors, a few amber alerts about the domain not being contactable outside the network and reliable resolution from outside the domain. Don't worry about that. We're just testing things internally, so this should all work fine. Once this is completed, it's going to advise you that you're about to be signed out. So just click close and leave the server. So the last bit of the configuration, now that we've completed the ADDS wizard, we should be able to see this little yellow, sort of orangey exclamation mark up there. And we have promote the server to being a domain controller. We just want to add one more role before we do that. So we go back to add roles and features. Let's go manage, add roles and features, and we just go to server roles and we just tick DNS server. Just accept all the defaults and then click install. Okay, and once that has finished installing, it should say installation succeeded here. Just click close. We now have DNS and ADDS roles installed. So let's go back over here. Now, we have a little error message here that wants us to promote the server to being a domain controller. So let's just click on that and choose add to a new forest. Now, I'm just going to come up with a domain. You can really, there are a few schools of thought. People used to put their company name .local. You are technically meant to own the domain. Since we're testing all this in a virtual environment, a nice simple one I like to put is sc.com. SC can stand for security control, something control.com. Scotland. So let's click next. And then okay. At this point, this is the DSRM password. We're just going to use the same password that we used for the domain. Click. Okay. Click next on the password. Let's tick the box to leave the NetBIOS name as SC. Finally, all prerequisites should check it. I mean, if you have any amber ones, don't worry about them. If you have any red ones, you should go back and fix them. And then just click install. And what this is going to do is this is going to make this server into an Active Directory domain controller. So Windows will probably give you a few errors, a few amber alerts about the domain not being contactable outside the network and reliable resolution from outside the domain. Don't worry about that. We're just testing things internally, so this should all work fine. Now, once this is completed, it's going to advise you that you're about to be signed out. So just click close and leave the server.